Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire.
Oh, you're trying to bring me down and run me out of town. You're taking what you want, but you can't take my rhythm now. I'm walking to my own beat, just gonna be me. I'm not replicating nobody.
Here's a verse on chapter 3 from my book, Burn Up Not Out, Believe, Understand, Reconcile, Nurture, which is what burn means, burn up, not out. But here's chapter 3, page 17. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same God at work. 1 Corinthians 12, 4 through 6. It matters what you're building your program with. It matters what you're building your life with and who you're building your program and building your life with. According to professional fire builders, determining which firewood is the best for you depends upon your particular needs or your preferences. You may like a fire which produces a pleasant aroma, crackles and pops, is highly efficient, or burns most cleanly. If you want the most efficient fires possible, burn hardwood. Hardwood logs are best for cooking and producing fires which are hotter and more intense. This is true of choosing individuals to develop a good or great volunteer staff. Know who is best for your needs and differences. Your team should be one that produces a program that works together for the goal of meeting the needs of students, and I'll add, and their families. Build a volunteer staff that care about each other and understand the commitment. God, family, vocation, health, and ministry would be the proper working order. You will need to guide your helpers to keep balance. If you haven't taken hold of this yourself, you must do so before you help your team members. It's not that this is easy or happens perfectly for many of us. Simple, but not easy. Most things that are great are simple, but not easy. This weekend, my children threw a party for me. Now, I turned 70. I know that dates me for a lot of people, but I want to give you perspective. When I was in my mid-20s, Jack Hamilton, who was the first youth worker with the Billy Graham Association, and I think the 40s, was my trainer. They got him to come to Orlando. He spent about a year with us, and Jack was amazing. Now, we were at a big meeting with Jack, with about 2,000 students in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. The music was just blaring. There's a band. We always had great bands that would come out, and the best of the best communicators. And so I was in the back of the hallway where we could at least hear a little bit behind in another room, because you could still hear the music. I said, Jack, man, you're here. Do you like this music? And he says, no, I hate it. I said, well, really? Well, why are you here? He said, well, I'm here because I'm helping you guys train, but it doesn't matter what music I like. It's whatever music draws students and helps encourage and excite them. Jack understood the big picture. It's not about age. It's about actually experience and passing what you know along to people who don't know. And I didn't know. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know. One of my main trainers is about 71, 72 now. And just about a year or so ago, he retired from student ministry full-time. He went from developing cities for Youth for Christ to another ministry in college ministry, which he retired doing with one of the universities up in Michigan. Who you get on your team matters. Now, the reason I talk about the party is because I wrote to some of the people who were in-laws and people who helped put the party together with my son and daughter, and Ryan couldn't be there. He's in North Carolina. I'm going up. We're going to celebrate in North Carolina and hit the slopes for a day and go to the mountains for a few days, which is just fine with me. But who showed up? About 50-some people showed up. They told me they didn't want me to give input. They would invite the people that they knew I knew and different things like that. And a lot of people showed up. And one thing I realized, and I told people who were not around when I was doing full-time student ministry, and especially those 29 years in one place. And I wrote them, I said, thank you for your sacrifice. The people you served, what you don't know is that they sacrificed for decades for student ministry and for me and my family so that we could do what we did. And they're still hanging out. And I didn't have to talk to everybody all the time at all because these people loved being together. And there's probably another 60 or 100 people that they could have invited. And some people couldn't show up because they were sick or out of town. I found out one of them was in Australia. I just found that out today. These people sacrificed all these decades. They still showed up because they loved my family. They loved me, but they love each other. And when they got together, it was just a quick on-the-spot party that lasted about 3.5 hours. And we were probably there for 5 or 6 hours. And so those types of volunteers, those were people that we gave a hard line to, a tough line to, and said, listen, this is not going to be easy. This is going to be hard. In fact, it's going to be harder than you think it's going to be. And Wayne Rice told us to do this. Unsung Heroes, which is a book, told us to talk that way. Doug Fields, who was the high school pastor to student ministries at Saddleback Church, said, don't settle on volunteers. Make sure that you know the standards that you want. And if people can't live up to those standards, that's okay. They don't have to join your student ministry as volunteers. But if you will wait, the right people will come around. And sometimes they will start bringing other friends going, this guy's good, she's good, he's good, because they know the standards and they want people with the same standards of work ethic that they have as volunteers. And so you want to do that. And one of the devotions, you want to look for people that will measure up, not people that you can measure down to. I hope that makes sense to you. You want people to measure up to where you want to go. Remember, you should be on mission, not in a job. If you're doing student ministries, make sure that God's got you there on your mission, His mission, but you don't, and you want people to measure up to the standards that you know it's going to take, and let them know just how hard and how much harder it's going to be than they think it is. And instead of people, you having to measure down to them. And I've had to do both at times, and when you measure down, it is never a good scene. So here's a devotional that happened in January of this devotional I just got through for this year. And it says, willingness is what is required. If you are willing and obedient, you will eat the best of the land, which is Isaiah 1:19. And it was talking specifically about Moses. And here are some of the excuses that Moses gave God of why he couldn't do certain things. And by the way, I was not qualified by human standards or by my own standards for student ministry at all. But God put me in the right place with the right people, and He had to literally tear me down and build me back up to do something that I never thought I even wanted to be. God must have gotten His wires crossed, is what Moses thought. Number one, Moses said, I don't have the ability, which is Exodus 3:11. This is all from Exodus. Number two, I don't know enough. Verse 13. How many students or adults have you seen come to know Jesus, and they should not have been leading people to God because they don't know enough? But all it is, it's about one phrase that people used to use was, we are beggars. All we are is beggars showing other beggars where the food is located, where the bread is. And the excitement and the changed life is what brings other people to Jesus, not knowing enough. I still have questions. There's still things that I don't know. There's still things that no pastor knows all the answers to, no youth worker, no theological professor at a seminary. They do not have all the answers. But the main answer is Jesus. Jesus loved, God's loved us so much that He sent Jesus. Number three, what was another excuse of Moses? What if the people don't believe me? Exodus 4:1. And that is absolutely true. If you'll go back and listen to Dr. Jay Strack with Student Leadership University, also Youth Pastor Summit, he's on one of our earlier versions. I think it's somewhere around the 10s or the 20s. I can't remember exactly. His main thing was he was invited after he became a famous speaker to his hometown. He said the newspapers came out and everything because he was speaking to some big deal. I said, well, were you accepted? Because, we hear about a prophet's not welcome, in his own hometown. He said, had I gone down acting like I was the expert, they would not have accepted me. But I went in going, this is the fool that I used to be. This is the messed up kid that I used to be. That's what everybody knows me by. And with their help, hopefully I can help them with something. I don't have all the answers. I'm just here wanting you to know that I'm a guy that was nothing and so messed up, and that God changed me. So we went in, he said, I went in as humbly as I could. I did not go in acting like I had all the answers and that I was going to change their city. And as a result, they loved me and accepted me. Number 3, again, was what if people don't believe me? And the answer is some people won't. Some people won't believe you. And instead of trying to convince them, go to the next group of people that will. And eventually it's possible that those people that didn't believe you at first and didn't think you were the guy to listen to will come back around another time. Moses went through that several times with the children of Israel while they were on the road, 40 days in the wilderness. 4, he said, I am the worst speaker ever, verse 10. That must have been Exodus 4:10. I'm the worst speaker ever. And what did they do? He got Aaron. God said, okay, I'll give you that one. I'll let Aaron speak for you. Well, eventually Moses ended up speaking for himself. 5, he said, God, send someone else. Obviously you got it wrong. Just send someone else. Verse 13. I said that over and over in student ministries in the beginning. What about you? Maybe you are just uncomfortable. Maybe you didn't intend to be in student ministries or as a volunteer, or maybe you're struggling as a parent or a teacher with middle schoolers or high schoolers, and the disrespect and the attitudes that come with that chemical change and that concrete thinking to abstract thinking. All of a sudden, they're not the little boy, they're not the little girl that you helped raise or that you knew with so much respect and so much love. But now the chemical reactions make them crazy and do crazy things. Send someone else. I'm no good for this. God chose you because he had a specific person in mind, specific people. He chose you because he knew you were the right person for whatever task he put you in. And that's where you go back to Jack Larson, just show up. That's where you go to Tim Tebow and his devotional, keep showing up. So I'll say to you, here we are. You've got lots of work to do and lots of things coming up, but realize this, God has the right people to come alongside you. And by the way, if you try to do it yourself, by yourself, you will end up by yourself. It's important that you know that some people, you always use people that can do certain things better than you. Do what you do best. Let them do what they do best, and don't try to do their jobs for them. Don't rescue them, but stand beside them and walk with them so they can do and be who God intended them to be in your life and the life of other students. All right, that's what I got for right now. We'll get back to you later. Have a great day and a great new year. Keep going. Keep stepping up. Realize we all have excuses for why we won't, couldn't, shouldn't do certain things. But God always has the answer, and he will help make you strong. And I'll remind you again, God, don't make the task easier. Make my back stronger so I can hold up under the pressure and do the work.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.